This is CBN NewsWatch.
And thanks for joining us for CBN NewsWatch. I'm Heather Sells. President Biden's pick for Health Secretary, California Attorney General Xavier Becerra, faces 2 days of grilling in the Senate as his confirmation hearing begins. Republicans say he's radical, especially on abortion, but Democrats say he's well within the party's mainstream and will make the pandemic his first priority. CBN's Ben Kennedy has our report.
To build back a prosperous America, we need a healthy America.
Xavier Becerra comes to this role after more than 20 years in Congress and succeeding Kamala Harris as California Attorney General. Now he's preparing for his new role in leading the agency most involved with regulating abortion. That worries pro-life advocates.
If we had a list of the worst people to choose, certainly Xavier Becerra would be at the top of the list. There's the famous Supreme Court case of NIFLA versus Becerra, in which Xavier Becerra was trying to force crisis pregnancy centers to promote abortion. We had to take that case all the way to the Supreme Court.
The Little Sisters of the Poor also took their case to court after Becerra tried to stand in the way of them wanting to not pay for abortion-causing contraceptives in their health plans. Becerra also supported charging undercover journalist David Daleiden with 10 felony counts, stemming from his 2015 videotape exposing Planned Parenthood's alleged involvement in the trafficking of aborted baby body parts. Becerra's qualifications are also in question, with critics saying the 62-year-old is not a medical professional and has no public health experience. The new commander-in-chief disagrees, though, highlighting Becerra's effort on health care and fighting to protect the Affordable Care Act. Given the current COVID picture, combined with Democrats barely controlling the Senate, Becerra is expected to be confirmed despite likely Republican opposition over issues like abortion. Ben Kennedy, CBN News, Washington.
Joining us now is pro-life advocate Art Alley. Art, thanks so much for joining us. I know you're involved in a 40 Days for Life campaign right now and keeping track of this confirmation hearing for our country's next Attorney General. What are your concerns about Xavier Becerra?
Well, we don't have enough time, Heather, but thank you for having me on. This guy's horrible in a single word. I mean, you've already exposed, Planned Parenthood appears to own him. Remember how horrified we were with the exposure of Planned Parenthood's agenda and selling body parts and all of that. And instead of Planned Parenthood being on the hot seat, first it started with Kamala Harris when she was Attorney General. Now he took over. And they are suing the investigators, not Planned Parenthood. I don't know where this country is going, but it's not in a good direction. And
you've been involved in the pro-life movement for a number of years, going back to Ronald Reagan's presidency. Where do you see the movement focusing at this point in time?
Well, the movement is very strong. Our problem is the leadership has stolen an election. Marxists are running America now. They are very pro-abortion. They are very pro-Planned Parenthood. And even though the majority of people really are coming to grips with what a horror it is to snuff out the life of the most innocent among us, there aren't words for me to express it.
All right. Well, I don't think that we have any, I'm going to dispute with you on the election being stolen, and we do have a new president who we want to honor him. I want to ask you, with respect to the fact that the president does support abortion and the fact that we do have a Democrat-controlled Congress, what are your concerns right now about what's going to happen in Washington on the abortion front?
Well, unless the people in America rise up and put some heat on some of these guys in public office, and, we point at letters, whether it's a D or an R after their name. If they're establishment, it really doesn't matter that much. I think we're in for a really rough road. But then again, when you look at it, we probably deserve it to a degree because on our watch, we have allowed all these horrible things to happen. Abortion at the top of the list.
All right. Well, I know a lot of people are watching these confirmation hearings. Art Alley, thanks for your time.
Oh, thank you. My honor.
Police officers protecting the Capitol on January 6th say the FBI did not flag to them an internal report suggesting that extremists were preparing for war. The report was issued January 5th by the FBI's Norfolk, Virginia field office. Robert Conti, acting chief of the Washington Metropolitan Police, says the report came via email and he believes a warning of that level, quote, would warrant a phone call or something. Stephen Sund resigned as Capitol Police chief the day after the riot. He testified before Congress on Tuesday, saying he was unaware the department had received the report until weeks after the insurrection. Another Capitol Police captain says that while she was proud of her officers, it was a day she deeply mourns.
As an American and as an Army veteran, it's sad to see us attacked by our fellow citizens. I'm sad to see the unnecessary loss of life. I'm sad to see the impact this has had on Capitol Police officers, and I'm sad to see the impact this has had on our agency and on our country.
Republicans are blasting the Democratic spending bill to help the economy recover from COVID-19. Although it contains funds for stimulus checks and vaccine distribution, they are concerned about pork projects attached to the measure. The House bill costs $1.9 trillion. It includes $1,400 stimulus checks for most Americans and an extension of $400 weekly federal unemployment benefits. But a Wall Street Journal editorial estimates that only about $825 billion of the bill relates to COVID relief. It went on to say the rest of the bill, more than $1 trillion, is a combination of bailouts for Democratic constituencies, expansions of progressive programs, pork, and unrelated policy changes. Well, the controversial San Francisco School Board decision to rename schools after famous presidents and people from American history is on hold for now. The move has been delayed until students are back on campus. School Board President Gabriela Lopez announced the decision Sunday. The board voted 6-1 in late January to remove the names of Lincoln, Washington, Thomas Jefferson, Paul Revere, among others, because of their direct or broad ties to slavery and racism. That led to a backlash over focusing on renaming schools during a pandemic and a recall petition against Lopez and others. Well, just this week, we are seeing growing censorship of conservative ideas by big tech and the federal government. 2 Democratic members of Congress have sent a letter to Jeff Bezos, the Amazon CEO, demanding to know why Amazon's Fire TV carries conservative programs like Fox News and Newsmax. At the same time, Amazon has pulled a book by Dr. Ryan Anderson, a conservative scholar and new president of the Ethics and Public Policy Center. When Harry Became Sally was published in 2018, and it critiques progressive ideas about gender and pediatric transgender medicine. And we are joined now by Dr. Ryan Anderson. Thank you for being here. Senator Marco Rubio calls this a digital book burning, but of course it's 3 years late. Why now? Why do you think your book is being banned now by Amazon?
You know, it's hard to say because they haven't said anything to us. They didn't communicate to me or to the publisher before they removed the book. And once they did remove the book, we reached out to them to ask what's going on, and no response. So who knows why they've removed the book? Now, the timing is suspicious because, as you point out, it's 3 years after the book was published, but it's the very week when the House of Representatives is to vote on the so-called Equality Act. What's the Equality Act? It's the act that would add gender ideology into the Civil Rights Act of 1964. And so the timing is a little suspicious, but we haven't heard a peep from Amazon on what the rationale actually is.
Right. It's so interesting. And your book, of course, is not the first book that's politically incorrect, if you will, on the transgender movement that has been banned. I want to ask you also, yesterday we saw 2 Democratic lawmakers asking the Amazon CEO to rethink conservative programs. What do you see at this point as the future for conservative books and television?
Well, so I think one thing we're going to have to think about is that it's not just big government that can be a threat to our liberties and ultimately to our flourishing, to our happiness. It appears that big tech can just be as much of a threat. And so we're going to have to think through how we as conservatives approach both the governmental side and the big business side, because both of them seem to be hostile to people with traditional American values.
Such a fascinating time. I want to ask you, too, about the Equality Act. Of course, right now, as it stands, there are no religious exemptions, so people of faith would be forced to conform to the ideas in this legislation. Are you seeing any movement on that front, or what are you looking for going forward with this act?
Well, what I think the real action is going to be what happens in the Senate. I think Nancy Pelosi is just ramming this through the House of Representatives. They're not even going to have hearings or markup. The bill was introduced late last week, and they're going to vote on it on the full floor of the House later this week. And so then the question becomes, what's going to happen in the Senate? Will they abolish the legislative filibuster? And if so, will any of the Democrat members of the Senate be willing to vote against a highly ideological bill that would harm the common good, and not just on religious liberty? This bill would be terrible for secular girls, secular women. Their athletic competitions would be turned upside down. Their bathrooms, their locker rooms would no longer be private, safe places. You don't need to be religious to be threatened by what's in the Equality Act.
All right, Ryan Anderson, there's a lot going on right now. We wish you the best with your book, and thanks for coming on.
Sure thing. Thank you.
Coming up, Iran's latest act of defiance when it comes to nuclear weapons and what it could mean for the Middle East.
Hey, if you're tired and exhausted all day, you can't think clearly, and you really just need a cup or even a pot of coffee to get through your day, then join me, Dr. Josh Axe, for this new series where I'm going to teach you how to transform your diet and use essential oils and supplements to get a better night's sleep.
Wake up to your best life. Call 1-800-700-7000 to get your free DVD or booklet of Protect Your Sleep today.
It's about the competition.
I kind of put that pressure on myself, and I think people had expectations.
It's about overcoming.
We use this phrase all the time, keep chopping, keep practicing hard.
It's about going the distance.
You know, I think as a father, it's my job, to lead. Just be the best husband and father I can be.
Watch Going the Distance with Sean Brown Saturday night at 7:30 on the CBN News Channel.
Orphans Promise is committed to loving and serving at-risk children, to helping keep families together, and to creating opportunities for strong and sustainable communities around the world. We're working in over 60 countries around the world, and with your help, we can do even more. There's an old African proverb I love that says, if you want to run fast, run alone. But if you want to run far, run together. At Orphans Promise, we want to run far so we can touch the lives of as many orphaned and vulnerable children as possible. But we don't want to go alone. We're out to change the world, one child, one family, one community at a time. Will you join us?
Iran is ending its agreement that allows the International Atomic Energy Agency to carry out inspections on short notice. Leaders of the terrorist nation also say that they will never yield to U.S. pressure over nuclear weapons. CBN's Chris Mitchell reports on the regional consequences of the stalemate.
Sunday, the head of the UN nuclear watchdog announced Iran will provide less access to its atomic program. The move is a response to U.S. refusal to lift sanctions, which Iran is demanding as a condition to return to the negotiating table. Some warn if negotiations lead to sanctions relief, it would begin a financial chain reaction in the region.
If more money would go to the IRGC, to the Iranian Revolutionary Guard, it would mean more money for Hezbollah in Lebanon, more money for Hezbollah in Syria, or the other proxies of Iran in Syria, in Yemen, in Iraq, and more instability in general to the Middle East.
You're already seeing Iran show tremendous aggression. It is increasing rapidly its enrichment of uranium, now to high-level enrichments that, very, very close to bomb-making capacity.
Middle East observer Joel Rosenberg fears negotiations could force Israel to strike first.
That with Biden trying to get back into the nuclear deal, Israel might decide it has to take preemptive military action against Iran's nuclear facilities. And then what would be Iran's counterpunch? Almost certainly it would be by ordering the Hezbollah military to fire its 150,000 or so missiles and rockets here at Israel, which would be devastating.
A war of words has already begun on Israel's northern border. Israel's defense minister Benny Gantz declared Lebanon's ground would tremble if Hezbollah attacked, while Hezbollah chief Hassan Nasrallah boasted his military can hit anywhere in Israel, and that Israel would not see anything like it since the founding of the state. Just days ago, Israel's Air Force launched an exercise that simulated 3,000 strikes on Hezbollah targets within 24 hours.
That's a great capability, and it's a message to Hezbollah. We know where you are, and we will get you.
Israel's military predicted in 2021 that Hezbollah does not want to enter into a full-scale war. But in 2006, the Second Lebanon War began with a small ambush. So they know anything could happen here on the Israeli-Lebanese border.
Here in the north, every small match can fuel a huge explosion.
Chris Mitchell, CBN News, on the Israeli-Lebanese border.
3,500 miles from the Israel-Lebanon border, ISIS-linked militants in Mozambique are reportedly getting closer to seizing strategic oil reserves. The African nation sits on the coast of the Indian Ocean. In recent months, there's been a brutal Islamic insurgency rising against government forces and civilians. The militants have largely struck in Mozambique's northern province, home to some of the largest oil reserves on the continent. Islamic fighters reportedly control a number of key towns there and are now pushing closer to the oil fields. CBN senior international correspondent George Thomas is following the situation there and joins us now with more. George, I understand Mozambique's president is deploying more soldiers to the area and asking for international help. Is that enough at this point?
Yeah, that's the big question, because this insurgency, Heather, has been going on since 2017, and we've seen an uptick in the last 12, 14 months. Mozambique has deployed, as you mentioned, soldiers initially, but they're losing the battle. I mean, these various Islamist groups are gaining control of the province, seizing strategic towns in their lead up to the various oil refineries. So it's a big concern. And so he made the plea to the EU, to the West, to other countries. A number of countries have come into the action. Portugal has sent troops. They have also hired the so-called private military contractors. Another word is mercenaries. We've had mercenaries from Russia, from South Africa engaged in the fight, but clearly it's not enough, and they need more.
You were on a call recently with the former State Department head of counterterrorism. What role is the U.S. playing in the insurgency?
Well, they are all across the African continent. They've got about 25 military bases across the length and the breadth of the country, of the continent. Mozambique is at the top of the list because there is growing concern because of these huge deposits of oil off the coast of the Indian Ocean. They've got huge minerals, rubies, gold, all kinds of other minerals. The concern is that that this could fall in the hands of Islamists. They haven't really outline specifically how they will deploy in terms of their military assets, troops, or intelligence gathering, but clearly they want to help and are ready to help.
Yeah, you mentioned there's several militant groups in the battle. It seems like really everyone in the world has a stake in what's happening here. What is the end goal? What do you see taking place?
Yeah, so you've got groups that have, loose links to ISIS, to Al-Shabaab, that primarily operates out of Somalia. But the group wants to create an Islamic emirate. They want to turn the northern part of Mozambique Muslim. That part of Mozambique is majority are Muslim. The rest of the country is Christian. The concern right now is that from Cabo Delgado, that this could spill over to other provinces and bring instability to that quadrant of the country.
Yeah, and we're seeing video here of just really what is beginning to look like a humanitarian disaster. How are people in the area coping?
Yeah, it's not a very good situation. You've got about 700,000 people who have fled Cabo Delgado in the last 13, 14 months. They've moved to closer towns like Pemba, which sits right on the Indian Ocean. They basically, you're seeing the video, setting up their homes on the beach of the Indian Ocean. It is really, really difficult situation. There's cholera, there's malaria, malnutrition, there's lack of food, water. The UN is sounding the alarm that this is sort of the crisis that nobody's talking about, and it's an important part of the continent, a strategic country on the continent, and the US and also Western countries are keeping a very close eye.
George, just a little under a minute left, but why has this crisis gone so largely unnoticed?
Well, because Mozambique is to some extent, it's on the eastern shore of the African continent. It's difficult to get access to. There are not a lot of journalists who have traveled. Colleagues from Sky News, the British-based organization, was the first international group. I think you're seeing video of that. They went and documented that right in Cabo Delgado. So you just a lack of information. And then you've got instability, as is the case in so many African countries, where there are large swaths of the country that is ungovernable. You don't have the military, you don't have the police. And in this case, in Mozambique, you don't have a well-commanding or a well-trained military to go after these insurgents. And so what ISIS and the sort of alphabet soup of terrorist organizations have realized, that they can go into these vast swaths of the African continent, set up base, recruit, train, and fund, because, again, the authority, their influence and power does not extend to these remote parts of the continent.
All right, George Thomas, thank you so much for reporting on this. We appreciate it.
Sure.
Still ahead, as America marks a milestone with the pandemic, what researchers are learning about some of the lingering side effects.
Daddy?
Yeah, buddy?
How many nickels are in a dollar?
There are 20 nickels in a dollar.
How do birds fly? Does milk really make my bones stronger?
Yeah.
Daddy, when we die, will we go to heaven?
Do you have the answer to life's biggest question? Call the 700 Club. We'll help you find answers to the important questions life brings your way.
Watch breaking news, in-depth exclusive stories and programs from health to entertainment you won't find anywhere else. The CBN News Channel, a perspective you can trust. Enjoy credible news reporting from around the world. Discover inspiring programs and stories of hope, all in one place from a Christian perspective. The CBN News Channel, a perspective you can trust. To watch the CBN News Channel, download the app or visit cbnnewschannel.com.
Hello, I'm Dr. David Perlmutter, board-certified neurologist and #1 New York Times bestselling author. Wouldn't it be great to boost your energy, eliminate brain fog, and even reverse brain disease? Well, you can, and I'm going to show you how, along with some of the world's most well-respected brain experts, in this DVD, Protect Your Brain.
Get Protect Your Brain, a free DVD only from the Christian Broadcasting Network, featuring experts on the cutting edge of neuroscience and brain health.
No matter how many times you've failed in the past, you really can do this.
In Protect Your Brain, you'll discover simple strategies to keep your brain young and healthy. Improve your memory. Discover the gut-brain connection. In Protect Your Brain. Get your free copy at cbn.com or call 1-800-700-7000.
If you want to improve the quality of your life, get the DVD Protect Your Brain and get it today.
Doctors in southern France are researching why COVID-19 patients can lose their sense of smell. The temporary condition is common among COVID patients. However, a small percentage continue to be affected months after having the virus. As part of the research, patients are asked to take a whiff of tubes with different scents. Doctors hope to determine why they lose their sense of smell and then figure out how to treat it. Well, child sex predators are behind bars in Arizona thanks to an undercover sting there. The Phoenix Police Department, in partnership with other agencies, formed Operation Broken Heart. It arrested 37 child and human trafficking suspects. They were between the ages of 21 and 66. Police and detectives used fake websites and apps to advertise deals for child sex acts. The suspects responded to the ads and were then arrested. Southern Baptist minister and theologian Vadi Bacham Jr. is sharing some good news following a battle with full-blown heart failure. Last week, he was admitted to the Mayo Clinic in Florida to undergo treatment, and recently he updated followers on social media saying in part, "My condition is much improved, and we have a clear, aggressive, and promising treatment plan." Coming up, this girl's shelter is dressed for success after a fixer-upper makeover to inspire its residents.
I am Regent's first ROTC graduate student.
I'm Ephraim Graham. Welcome to Studio 5.
Get on it.
All that's new and now in the world of uplifting entertainment with celebrity interviews.
There's a higher contribution I will make.
Musical performances.
I'll give you my best praise.
Plus movie and TV news.
See it and be uplifted.
On Studio 5. Every Wednesday at 5 p.m. Eastern at cbn.com/Studio 5.
How'd you like to get a redo on your health, on your body, on your arteries, so you could have the energy you had 20 years ago? The great news is you can. I'm Dr. Mike Roizen, chair of the Wellness Institute at the Cleveland Clinic. I've written 4 New York Times bestsellers. But even better than having to read all that, you can listen to this DVD and watch it. Protect your heart? Yes, you can. Here's how.
Go to CBN.com or call 1-800-700-7000 for your free copy of Protect Your Heart. Let the medical experts show you their new discoveries on how to avoid heart disease and even reverse it. Easy steps to uncover the hidden dangers in your medicine cabinet, reduce stress, and get a complete do-over for your health. Call 1-800-700-7000. That's 1-800-700-7000. Or go to CBN.com to claim your free copy of Protect Your Heart.
TV celebrities Chip and Joanna Gaines revived their show Fixer Upper Welcome Home by transforming an emergency girls' shelter into a stylish and comfortable home. The newly brightened space is home to about 16 girls at a time while they transition into longer-term solutions like foster care. The Gaines worked with the owner of the shelter and a former resident to make nearly 4,000 square feet of space feel cozy. The owner said the remodel will help the girls understand that there can always be change and that change can be a good thing. And that is it for this edition of CBN NewsWatch. Remember, you can find more of our news programs on the CBN News Channel anytime or online with cbnnews.com. We hope that you will join us next time. Have a great day.